Hello, and welcome to this overview of the MAS Module Scorer that enables you to test out your decisions and models directly via a UI. In this video, we will go over both the installation process and the usage of both modes of this application. There is a standalone one, and there is one that can be integrated directly into SAS Visual Analytics. So let's get right into it. Here we are in the SAS MAS Scorer repository that explains all the details. Please make sure that in order to run this, you do have prerequisites, both for the standalone mode, where you need to configure the prerequisites of the SAS Visual Analytics SDK, linked here in the description. And if you want to integrate it directly into SAS Visual Analytics, you have to update some of the content security policies within SAS Environment Manager for that. There is an explanation why these are needed and what they mean explicitly. Now, let's get to the installation, assuming that you have fulfilled all of the prerequisites. First, for the standalone mode. For this, you only have to download this dist.zip file, move it onto your web server, unzip it, and you are done. Well, kind of, because if you unpack it and you unpack this onto a web server that isn't hosted under the same URL origin as your SAS VIA server, then there is a config.js file in that repository, in that folder, that you can edit to add your SAS VIA URL in there. If you host your SAS VIA server and the web server under the same main URL, then this will just work out of the box. Let's take a look how this looks like on my environment. I'm going to hit restart here and navigate. Here you can already see it. I have the dist.zip file in my web server, and I also have in here the config.js. And if we open this up, you can see I left it empty, but if my VIA server is under a different URL, I can just add it here, save it, and then I don't have to restart any services. All other assets remain within this folder and are relative to that folder. You can, of course, delete the zip file if you don't want to have it lying around on your web server. If you do this and you have configured the prerequisite, you are done now. You just have to share the URL with your SAS VIA users and can skip ahead in the video when we talk about using the standalone mode. Now, let's talk about adding the SAS Visual Analytics integration. For this, we will have to download the transfer package that is available from this repository and then import it into our SAS Environment Manager. Now, let's take a look at that by going into SAS Environment Manager. We are going to the import page. We choose a file to import. We navigate to wherever we saved our repository to. So let me jump there real quick. SAS Visual Analytics Integration, JSON. And this will import 4 things into your environment. First, the public folder, which you usually have, so you can ignore it. And then it will add underneath the public folder, the MAS Module Scorer folder. And in that, it will add 2 additional items. One is a visual analytics report, and the second one is an HTML job form that is used to store the front-end application code of this application. That is then integrated into SAS Visual Analytics. Now, if you go ahead and import it, we can then move on into Visual Analytics directly and open up the report by navigating through SAS content, going into the public folder, then looking for the MAS module scorer, and then there is only one report in here. Now, first up is the setup notes page. This explains in detail what I'm going to describe here for you and also give you further links into the SAS documentation. What we need to do is first assign it a data source. This can be any data source that is broadly available for everybody in your organization that is supposed to be accessing this application. Now, this is just a formality for the data-driven content object, which houses our application. It needs a variable assigned to it, so we need a table that we can assign a variable to. Make it a small table with very little data in it, or something technical that is flying around in your server already. Once we have done that, we move to the second page where we have our MAS module scorer. We click on the object or navigate to it using the drop-down on the right. We assign our variable. As I said, doesn't matter what it contains. And then we go to the options pane, scroll all the way down to the bottom where you will find this URL. Just go in here and start from the beginning and replace this previous environment up until the slash, but excluding that slash, and replace it with your SAS VIA environment. Once you have done that and you have fulfilled all your prerequisites, then you will see a UI similar to the one we are looking at right now. For that, I will now go into the demonstration of the standalone application, but everything I say there also applies to how it works within SAS Visual Analytics, so it's actually one giant section explaining both interfaces. I will just start with the full URL screen because we have already seen it in here, and yeah, they are completely functionally identical. So here I navigated to my SAS MAS Scorer page on my web server. Now, I'm currently not logged into SAS VIA, so I will get this prompt to first log in. If you are already connected, this will of course not happen to you. So I click it. It will bring up the SAS Logger Manager, or if you have SSO configured, it will just work. I can sign in. I'm prompted if I am admin or not. I don't have to be an admin to use this application. And then it indexes all the MAS modules available within my environment. Now, I can go in here and start looking through them. There is a lot of information already on here just in this table. And of course, you can sort it using the module name and also the last modified columns to enable you to quickly scan through what you have and what has been changed in the last couple of days. You can of course also navigate through the different pages here, and also we can search. Now, you can already see here there is different tags for decisions and models where you can find out information about them. So let's just click into one of the models first. We get more information about that specific model here. And we can also click a deep link and open it up inside of SAS VIA, in SAS Model Manager, or SAS Intelligent Decisioning respectively. Then we see all the different steps involved in it that we can start to make use of. And we can do that by clicking on execute. But I first want to look at a decision. And for that, I have prepared a very simple decision called cars. And this one, we are going to use the execute step. Now note underneath it, there is also a so-called danger zone where you can delete a module from MAS and it will be removed forever. That means if you delete the module and then confirm that you are certain, and of course you have the right to, then the module will be deleted. Of course, you can always rebuild it by republishing it, but this is both a way to clean up temporary testing modules that you had published, and also a way for you to ensure you don't replace, like you don't have any artifacts lying around or anything like that. So helpful utility, but dangerous. So let's continue with execute, where we are prompted again with a whole lot of information here. First up, we can view the source code behind this decision and also the scoring module for a model in here, and can copy that. We also get an API call here, written in both Python and JavaScript, that is pre-built for you with all the required inputs ready to be used. The only thing you have to adjust is adding your access token to the request, and then you're off to the races. And finally, we can see how many in and outputs we have, and we get also the output signature of this module. And then underneath it, we can put in our inputs. So let's just add cylinders into it, and then we get the results page in here. We get the completed tag, we get how long it took for us to do that, and we get the result. We can also look at the actual JSON response we got from this request, and we can also copy it to use it some other place. And then finally, there's a second mode, the so-called batch mode. Of course, this isn't batch in the true sense of batch, because you're still running everything synchronous in this UI and you can't schedule these calls from this UI, but this allows you to do essentially mass testing of your MAS modules. So here we can go ahead and upload a CSV file from our local PC. So I'll just grab some data here. So here we can see we have 805 rows. It was unable to automatically match your columns of the CSV file with the required inputs. If the names match, it will auto assign them, but we can go in and just add it here as well. So let's look at this. If we have, okay, this was a bad file here. We need to actually give it just a decimal. So let me pulling the enrollment outcomes file. Here we have days to enrollment. We'll select that as a mapping. Then we can specify how many parallel requests we want to do. I'll select 4. Also the note, if you do 1, you are just doing sequential calls. And then we can watch it as it scores all of the CSV file through our decision or model and collect the results of our request here. Now, this is very important, especially if you go into tuning your MAS environment for high performance configurations. Meaning, if you want to make sure there's a certain throughput of your decisions and you have a certain scaling law applied to it, you can kind of see and configure the exact specifications. We get a summary of our request here. So in total, it took 25 seconds. The average was 123 milliseconds. The fastest 112, the slowest 510. So we can really dig into the details. We can see all of the responses down below and also download them as a CSV file to store or to reuse at some other point. Now, there's also some nice navigation feature here on the left-hand side, allowing you to quickly switch back between modules you had already opened within that session. And of course, up top, the All Modules button that takes you back to all of them. This works exactly the same inside of SAS Visual Analytics. So let's quickly take a look just so you get an understanding of how it feels and compares. And then we're going to conclude this video. So I'm gonna open up my SAS Visual Analytics report and we are dumped right into the same view. You can scroll in here just like before. We can search for the same decision, open it up and start working with it. So it's a functionally equivalent. It's just the embedding is a bit different. The context in which it runs is different. And of course, with SAS Visual Analytics, you lose a bit overhead here, but on the other hand, you never have to leave SAS Via and your admin doesn't have to deploy a web server. So really pick either one, you don't lose anything in functionality. I hope you enjoy this utility and see you next time. Bye bye.